Hello again, this is Don Larson speaking. I think we're ready to get started. Again, welcome to our webinar on VizEx View HTML5 CGM viewing technology. Today's webinar is going to be presented by myself, and David Manick is going to be presenting the main part of the presentation. And then we also have Mark Meyer, the chief developer of this product, on hand for your technical questions. So for this webinar, all attendees are going to be muted for the duration of the webinar. If you should experience any problems, use the little chat window over to your right to communicate with us. Computer audio is the recommended option, but there's also a call-in number. We have some product data sheets available too, available in the little handouts box in the control panel. There's just little PDFs you can drag and drop to your desktop, so feel free to do that. And if you have any questions while the webinar, you can post those while it's happening, while they're fresh on your mind, in the little questions box. So then at the end of the webinar, we'll answer all those questions for you. Hopefully, if not, we'll get back with you by email. The agenda today, I'm going to give you a brief company overview, then we'll do an introduction, some background information on this technology, how it came about, and also the technology, core technology introduction of this technology. And then we'll actually have a demonstration of the VizEx View HTML5 viewer in a browser, and then some actual code samples of how to implement the technology, brief you on the documentation that's available and the resources that are available for developers wanting to implement this. And then we'll briefly familiarize you with the evaluation program for those who want to dive in and try it out. And then we'll wrap up with a Q&A session and some closing remarks. So with that said, I'm going to turn it over. Oh, one more thing, a company overview for those of you who are not familiar with Larson Software Technology. We're based in Houston, Texas. We were founded in 1984, and as we've been graphics technology experts for over 30 years. We develop powerful, innovative graphic software and toolkits based on open standards. We've promoted the CGM. For years, we've been providing a free CGM and TIFF viewer, which is going to be replaced here this month by a subscription version, which is available on our online store on our website. We were the first developer of a CGM HTML5 CGM viewer, eliminating the need for plugins. We're a member of the CGM Open Foundation, and Larson Technology simplifies the graphic workflow for technical publication professionals, engineers, geologists, and geophysicists working with technical graphics. So now with that said, I will indeed turn it over to David for the remainder of our presentation.
Thank you, Don. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening. Welcome to the webinar. As Don has just introduced me, thank you for attending this kind of annual event we do around the VizEx View HTML5 technology. It's not just about new users, it's also about existing users, where we try and relate some perhaps new information or help you along with the technology. So we have to start really from the beginning. Obviously, we have got some new people here as well as existing users. So what's this all about? So CGM graphics for displaying a web environment has always relied on a plugin technology, possibly an ActiveX control. And Larson recognized this a few years ago that a lot of the popular browsers were dropping support for the plugins. And so we decided that this strategy would force the market to explore kind of alternative technologies and formats. So we decided to, at that point, to research and develop a technology with the ability to display CGM graphics without a plugin required. So the benefit would be, if we could do that, which we did in the end, obviously, that you would be able to retain your CGM graphics archive. So you wouldn't have to actually convert them to another format to enable them to display in a web environment. And more importantly, we wanted to retain the quality that already existed through using the plugin with quality, speed, and also functionality of the hotspots. So when we developed the technology, we wanted you to be able to use the CGMs that you had already and maintain their functionality, not to lose that. And that's what we've done with VizEx View HTML5. That then mitigates the risk of converting files to another format. So when you convert files, there's always the danger that something could be lost. So we thought it was important that the preserving your CGMs would really help in that particular task. We don't kind of say you don't actually convert, because we have our own converters, but we say this is a different approach. Preserve what you already have. So some background. There's probably three keys to this. One, there's the CGM itself, so the computer graphics metafile, so the CGM graphic. And then there's the web environment, so HTML5, which is obviously the cornerstone of web development today. And the technology we chose to actually implement this was Webgl, which is a JavaScript API which is used to develop viewing environments for 3D and 2D graphics without the requirement for a plugin. So firstly, CGM. I think probably most of the audience are familiar with the format. Hard to believe how long it's been around, probably 40 years now. But the key is that it's non-proprietary. So it's not keyed to any particular vendor or organization. It's open. So it's actually managed by the W3C consortium in the respect, and it's also validated by them as well. So it's important that we have open formats so we don't get tied into those proprietary environments. And it was adopted by the S1000D specification and the commercial aircraft specifications as well. So it's a key component of their deliverables, both for print and also for displaying online. HTML5, well, we experience it every day in the background of our internet browsing, but it's really now the main technology for delivering web experience. So again, it's a W3C standard, it's not owned, it's non-proprietary, but HTML5 really introduced syntax for displaying video, audio, and graphics via the canvas tag. So this really began to get or provide the ability to get rid of plugins, really. So things like Flash and so forth will become unnecessary. They become really native to the actual environment, so no plugin required. Also, SVG, which we've done a lot of work with as well, was native to HTML5, so a graphic environment that was easy to implement within a web environment. So graphics displayed, and this is why we did our own viewer for CGM to eliminate that requirement for a plugin. So HTML5 is device independent, so it can go across different PCs, smartphones, and tablets. And it also introduced an API that enabled developers to create complex environments to deliver via the web. So Webgl, this really underpins our technology for VizEx View HTML5. It's cross-platform, it's royalty-free, it's a JavaScript API based on OpenGL, and it's primarily used to render 3D and 2D graphics. It's designed and maintained by the Kronos Group, who are a non-profit organization. It's completely integrated into the web standards, and it enables the browser to use GPU acceleration, obviously giving us great speed. That would be very important for 3D images. As I said, no plugin required, and we've also should see, I think, Webgl 2 coming, and this should give us some additional performance benefits. So why did we get rid of, or why are the browsers beginning to get rid of ActiveX and other plugin technologies? Well, one, they had to be installed on the computer before you could actually use them, which could cause headaches. It also was really strongly criticized for security issues, and a lot of organizations would not actually put them on their systems because of those security holes it began to create. In some organizations as well, usually the larger ones, because it had to be physically installed on the computer, it needed to be accredited by the IT area. So this could cost money and time, so not very easy to implement. So what we saw is that Microsoft in Internet Explorer or Edge stopped supporting plugin technologies. So only Internet Explorer still supports ActiveX. And we thought this was a good indication that the market really was going to phase out plugins. So Chrome actually blocked them in 2016. Not sure if Firefox is still supporting them, but with VizEx View HTML5, then you wouldn't really need a plugin anymore anyway. So we recognized pretty quickly that as a CGM viewing solution with no reliance on a plugin would really help our customers and prospects in the future. Something new is, and something we've been researching and investigating, is something we do as a company is always try and improve our technology. And we've been recently looking at Webassembly 1.0. It's an open standard again W3C, and gives us another option to actually compile our technology, which should give us improved performance and a smaller footprint, and helps us debug the software as well a lot easier than it is now. So we're currently testing the WebAssembly, or its kind of abbreviation is WASM technology, with probably the objective eventually of replacing the JavaScript version. We're not there yet, and we'll obviously keep our customers informed of the development phase. But it's actually supported by all the major browsers, so Chrome, Firefox, Safari, and Edge. And if you're interested in the technology, you can visit the address there, webassembly.org, to find out more about it. So that's some background. Now we're introducing VizEx View HTML5 itself. It was the first CGM viewer where no plugin is required, and I still don't know of any other at the moment. The key really that I see is that it's device and platform independent. So even going back to plugins, if you wanted to have an ActiveX control, then you couldn't really run it on Linux, for instance. And we had a lot of customers who wanted to kind of be cross-platform, cross-device. So here you could go, onto an Android device or an iOS device, and also just a normal computer. So we make available technology via a software development kit, an SDK, and this enables the integration into the viewing solution into your technology, perhaps an IETP. It's fully customizable via our JavaScript API. It supports all versions of CGM, as I mentioned earlier, that you don't have to discard the CGMs you already have, so right back to version 1, and obviously version 4 of CGM, and all the different profiles like S1000D and iSpec 2200 are supported. So the quality is really, really good. It's the same as you would experience in ActiveX, and the rendering over the past couple of years, we've really improved the speed of the rendering of the graphics. You wouldn't really see now any difference between the ActiveX and our technology. And it fully supports all the interactivity that you put into the file as well. So if you've got hotspots in there that trigger different events, then you're not going to see any difference between what you have previously and now. So as I mentioned, we cross-platform and cross-browser. So Chrome, Firefox, Internet Explorer, Microsoft Edge, Safari. So again, not perhaps the audience isn't as big, but if you're on a Mac platform, if you had to have an XVX control, then there's no way you were seeing these in that environment. So like Safari, you're just going to get the same experience in with VizEx View HTML5, so you can be able to see your CGMs really across any platform, as long as you've got the browser to do it with. So the main features, we've really optimized the CGM loading and rendering, again, over the last few years. And we're seeing really a like tenfold performance, especially in IE and Edge, where we find most of the IE item users are based. Although we're doing similar performances with Chrome, Firefox, so forth. We support raster formats as well within the technology, so it's not just about CGM. So you can also display TIFF, JPEG, BMP, PNG, and GIF. So we're really looking to match the functionality that you would have found in the old ActiveX controls. It automatically detects the supported file types as they come in. We've got a text search. This is via the toolbar, so you can search text within the graphics. We can display multiple CGMs on a single page. We support XCF, or the XML companion file, which is widely used in the commercial aircraft industry. So if you want to put metadata, additional metadata, we can support that via the XML companion file. We've reduced the footprint of the JavaScript library, and this is why we're investigating WASM to see if we can get that footprint even smaller. We enhanced the API. We add new functions in, and these are mainly customer driven. So if you're on board, then you can obviously make suggestions. And then the JavaScript library itself now can be loaded dynamically, so it can be done as a background process. So let's go to the demo itself. Just going to pull up our page. So if you start with our evaluation program, you're going to be confronted by this page. So this is probably a good starter for you, just to introduce you to that. We have a getting started PDF, which we've actually put into the handout, so you could actually drag and drop that across now. Let's just pull it over from our other page. So this is the PDF. It's a very basic, but it just gets you going with the technology. So in some of the code that you need to implement into the HTML. So that's a kind of our starter document. You'll see the canvas tag, which we'll speak about as we go along a bit more. And then we've got our API reference documentation. This is not a PDF, this is all online. So you can just pull this up at any time. It's fully interactive, so we can look at the events, and the document itself, and the structure, and so forth. So we've got event listeners. So for your programmers out there, developers, then it's a very straightforward document to navigate, and shows you all the functionality that we currently have in the product. And then we've got some samples. So this is quite key, so you learn how to implement the actual technology itself. So we've got the simple viewer is just really calling up the technology and putting a CGM file in there straight away. So it's just loading to begin with. Once it's loaded, we'll see that it doesn't really take that long. This the JavaScript library resides on our, so I'm calling this over the internet, so it resides on our server, but you could actually copy it locally as well if you want to do it on your own server. So here's our CGM file. The toolbar here is actually part of the environment. You'll see as we go along, we could have our own custom toolbox as well, and we can switch this one off. But for the sake of this particular, the simple demonstration, we've just got it implemented as part of the environment. So I can zoom in on areas and you'll begin to see the speed of the technology. I can pan around here, so I can just move this around. You see it refreshes really quickly. Okay, so that's just our simple viewer to begin with. And then the next example is using the technology as a viewer. So say this was implemented on your intranet, for instance, it would give the ability for anybody in the company really to view CGM files. So what we've done here, this is the custom toolbar, so you can see it's outside of the blue area of the window, the control itself for viewing the CGMs. So now we can begin to customize this toolbar, and we've added in like an open menu, so then I could just pull up let's just pull up a file, CGM file, and there we have a CGM. We'll see that the hotspots are working here because we've got a tooltip, so we've got a sensitive area, and then we can zoom again, and hopefully we'll see the speed as we can zoom in and pan again. And then we've got a few other controls up at the top, so we can just resize as we wish. And then we can view the hotspots that are on this particular. So we want to see where the hotspots are. We can hopefully be able to see those in red, the red bounding box. We can just see where our hotspots are for this particular illustration. Okay, so let's just close this down. We'll go to our next example. So this would be multiple CGMs on a HTML page. So there could be occasions where you don't just have one graphic, you could have actually 2 or 3. So, and these could be actually spaced out by text as well. So there could be actually a text in between these files. So each one gets its own. In this case, this is our not our custom viewer, but our internal viewer control toolbar. So now I can just zoom in on these individual ones. And again, you'll see the speed that we experience. And then we can pan around. Let's go to pan and just move this around once we've zoomed in a bit. So I'm just going to zoom in on an area here because I want to do another function. So again, the pan. So now we've got 3 images up, and you can see that the performance is still really very good. So here you might see that we've got an extra kind of little icon, and this is the text search. So I can see there's a MMR there, find it, and then we highlight the text that we've found. So this could be useful if you're trying to find part numbers or particular pieces of text on this illustration, if it's quite complex. So you could find that, or you could find more than one instance of it as well. And we might enhance this a bit further as we develop the technology. But I think it's always something that people want to see within the graphics is a way of searching as well. So that's built into this actual viewer. I'm also going to look at the source at this point as well. So as you're probably aware, we can always look at the sources of pages. So I just want to show you here that we have, if we look, we have 3 canvases down here. So I don't know if you can highlight, but here's the canvas tags that are actually containing the CGM files. So there's actually 3 of them there. You can see the actual names of the CGMs that we've got available. So it's pretty simple to insert these into your HTML. It's really just that one tag, and then everything's taken care of, all the functionality by the actual the technology itself, the viewer. And we'll look at some more code as we go along. The next one is add a new canvas. So let's just go to this example. Now you might see, well, I can't really see a use for this, but this would be more if you don't want to load everything automatically at the beginning, the graphics, for instance, and you want to give the for instance, the user the ability to bring the graphic up. So they could actually just add a new canvas here. So this would display the graphic they want to see rather than it having to load and perhaps slow the performance down a bit. So that's just something we added in. So that's just adding a new canvas element. The next example was, if you remember, I spoke about at the beginning about the companion file. So this is where we would hold This is where we would actually hold information external to the graphic. So, for instance, if you had different languages for this for the tooltips, it's not something you could actually have embedded inside the CGM file. So here we've got the English tooltip, but on the drop down we have the ability to say, let's change that to German. So this is contained now inside an XML file. In fact, all three languages are. I'm not going to attempt to pronounce these, but you'll get the idea. So Spanish. So it really gives you that ability to have metadata not actually contained inside the CGM, but external via XML. And this is a standard you'll find within ATA and also in S1000D, so it's well supported, and we support it within VizEx View HTML5. Okay, the next example is dynamic library loading. So this is probably one more for the developers, is that they have the ability to load it really on demand. So rather than it just load arbitrarily and perhaps slow down the solution, then we can actually just load VizEx View HTML5 in the background. So this is just a box just to be kind of very literal. Now it's loaded, and then we can load or create a canvas as we did earlier on demand, and then we might want to open a file. So it's all about giving the developer options to actually implement during their interactive electronic manual, to give them the best way to actually present the data to the end user. A final example is really an interactive one between text and graphics. So now we have the illustration. You'll see the toolbar is completely different, so you could really brand this toolbar however you want, and use your existing icons if you want to, or create brand new ones. But you'll see here as I hover over the hotspot that it changes the row of the table. So as I move around, it changes obviously on the table at the top. So this is probably functions that you might have seen already that you've implemented in with ActiveX, but it shows we can do the same thing here, but we're all on kind of one page. We haven't got this plugin that we're having to call upon. So in some ways it's a lot easier to implement because it's all based around HTML. And we'll look at this in a bit more detail. So this is, again, we've got the same functions here. We can pan, just looks like slightly different icons, and we've still got that speed. So just make it. Now this is a two-way interaction as well. So if I click on, say, let's say 4, you'll see that it highlights number 4, the hotspot down here. So this is a two-way interaction. So number 2 and number 1. So we've got that interaction both ways between text and graphics, which again is probably fundamental if you, especially doing spare parts illustrations. Okay, so that's all our examples. So if you join our evaluation program, this is what you're going to come across. Hopefully that's a good kind of opener for you to begin using the technology. So how do we implement this? I think I did mention that we have a JavaScript library. So this is it, the name of it here. Again, this sits on our server, but you could copy and paste it over. And then there would be a license file. So at the moment, the license file is just the general one while you're in the evaluation. If you did come on board and purchase the technology, you'll get your own specific license file for you to use. So the JavaScript library can sit on your server, but equally it could also be put onto a standalone laptop as well. So you could still use this in isolation of the network if you needed to. So it doesn't necessarily have to sit on the server. It could be on an individual laptop. So the key to this in the HTML environment is the canvas tag or canvas element that we spoke about earlier, something that's new to HTML5. So this is the element that draws the graphics on the fly, but please rate it's just a container for the graphics. So actually JavaScript Webgl that actually draws the graphics in that canvas element. So it's not something where you could just do this arbitrarily. You would need some kind of Java to actually generate and display the graphic. So how does it differ from ActiveX? So at the top here we've got where the ActiveX would have been, the code around that. So we've got the control, the width and the height of it, and then it's calling up the CGM. At first it looks like the HTML is a bit more complicated, but it isn't really. The bottom script here is really calling up the library. So that could be sitting in the header file, not necessarily with every graphic. And then we have the canvas tag itself, which is just really giving us the height and width of the display area. And then the script is really calling in the technology itself along with the graphic. So here we have the name of the graphic at the end. So pretty much similar, obviously slightly different implementation. But the key is here that there's nothing to be installed on the computer for this to work. It's really just it's just looking at the JavaScript library, which is really copy and pasted on there. It's not installed in any way. So I spoke about customizing the toolbar. So here we're looking at the custom toolbar with that particular open icon. And here we have the, it's just a PNG file, so open.png. And then we have the call made by, when we click it, is to bring in the file input so we can actually open the file. And then as we move down here, we have different calls. So set mapping for scaling to width and so forth. So these are just calls within the API that allow us to perform the functions. So pretty straightforward to create your own toolbar. Now, I'm not a programmer, but I can pretty much follow some of the terminology here and create this quite easily. And obviously you could substitute your own graphics in there to really customize your toolbar. And here's some of the code around the interactive one that we saw at the end. So we can see that when we hover over a hotspot, it comes up with this JavaScript mouse over event handler. So it recognizes the mouse is hovering over that area, and then it replaces this with the colored background on that particular row. So it's really, we have the event handler itself, and then it changes style, and this is the color, so the hexadecimal color, so you could change it to any color that you wanted in here. So not a lot of code to actually, or JavaScript to actually implement that. And then in reverse, we've got a function called point text. So this is where we were clicking on the name of the item here, and then so the JavaScript is point text. So this would be the function itself, and then we have the actual implementation where we click on a href, which is the name washer, and then it highlights the actual graphic in the opposite direction. So again, I think for you developers out there, this will be quite easy for you to follow and implement. So how do you get started? Well, you could actually drag and drop over the getting started file, so that would be good. You would need to go to this link, so cgmlarson.com, VizEx View HTML5 tests. So we can easily, if you want that after the demonstration, we can send it to you via email, or you can wait for the slides and the link should work there as well. There's also a link on the website as well if you visit the product page for VizEx View HTML5, so you can click on there, and it's a really straightforward way to actually log in. All we really need is your name, email, and if you want to put a message in, that's up to you. But very easy. It then just takes you straight to that evaluation page. So the benefits, hopefully you've already seen them, but I think the major one really is preserving what you already have. So it means you really don't have to convert. We're not saying don't convert, but I think it's a really good thing to keep what you have, and then you don't run the risk of losing anything in your graphics that you've created. Full CGM support, all versions 1 to 4, and also profiles S1000D and ATA. Hopefully you've seen that fast rendering and the quality of the rendering. It's always a bit kind of difficult in a webinar to see that, but hopefully we kind of put that over today. Obviously no plugin required, and no software installation required. So configurable toolbar is really give you the ability to give that look and feel that you want for your particular product. So we've now got some question and answers. If you've got any questions, please put them into the box now. So just wait for that. I think Don's going to come back on. I've got a question around WASM or the WebAssembly stuff. Don, I don't know if you can answer that or Mark. But are we going to replace what we have now, or will we have two? Will we be running both in tandem?
We'll continue to have both. The WASM is just available for those who want to use it. We think it's going to be faster, especially on mobile devices where the browsers have to have. It's simpler for the browsers to run WASM because it's going to be native to them. So we think it's going to have a big advantage, but we'll be supporting both. So for instance, for Internet Explorer, you can't use WASM because Internet Explorer doesn't support WASM. It's the only browser I know of that doesn't. So okay. Yeah, we'll support both.
Do we actually envisage, what's the from a developer's point of view, what's the support like now from Microsoft for the old Internet Explorer? Do you think that's just going to stop eventually?
That seems to be the trend, because while it still supports ActiveX controls, the plugins, it doesn't seem to be getting any of the newer technologies. And so I think, I don't know, okay. It doesn't appear like it's going to ever support WASM.
Okay. What's our experience? Question here around tablets and phones. Obviously, mobile devices are really important to people nowadays. What's our experience with those kind of devices for displaying CGMs? So iOS, Android.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Well, it's had very good support for this for the HTML5 and all the sub technologies like Webgl. So they've had very good support. It's our experience has been good. It might be, it does require a little bit more heavier. Like if you're going to run on an iPad, it probably won't work well on an iPad 2, for instance. A real old, you pretty much have to go to, iPad Air or iPad Pros. But it supports it very well. No, we haven't had any problems with it.
Good. Got a question here about, are you going to support SVG as well? So I'll let you answer that, Don, because it's obviously it's a different environment.
Yeah, well, it's SVG is well, we do support SVG in a lot of our products, like our authoring, our editor, for instance, supports reading and writing SVG. So yeah, we support SVG. Now, as far as in this HTML technology that we're showing today, obviously is not a lot of reason for us to put it in our viewer because it's already native to the browsers as far as viewing. But so yeah, we embrace SVG, and it's an important standard, and so we support it in that respect.
Yeah, we've kind of recognized in the SVG world that if we call VizEx View HTML5 kind of a toolkit for displaying CGMs, with SVG you can easily display SVGs within a web page. The issue you have is that how do you control it once it's in there? So there is no kind of off-the-shelf way of creating a toolbar, for instance, that we've got in our technology. So we've actually debated in providing a toolkit for SVG because a lot, as Don just mentioned, a lot of our products support SVG, either creation or conversion to SVG. So perhaps it would be nice if we could provide people with a toolkit to actually create a viewing environment. So it wouldn't really, as Don says, it wouldn't really make much sense as displaying it within this environment as it's already native to HTML5. So yeah, so that's the questions. Thank you for that, for the audience providing those. Hope you found those interesting. So final remarks. So the technology has really changed the way that you display CGM files on the web, and we've definitely experienced that. We have a lot of customers out there now using it and implementing it on some very large projects, and really getting rid of ActiveX because really it's no longer required and no longer supported. So really see IT people who hated ActiveX now being your friend, and also please join the evaluation program and become part of the evolution of the CGM viewing. So we have a lot of information on our website. You can also go to SlideShare, where we've got a lot of papers and so forth on CGM, S1000D illustrations, the data sheet, which was actually as a handout as well, and upcoming events. We're going to have another webinar in June, but we haven't announced that yet. But we are attending and participating, exhibiting at the AIA Tech Data Workshop in Huntsville, Alabama, at the end of this month. So if you're there, please come and say hello. So that's the end of the webinar. Thank you for attending. Thank you for the questions. Please contact us if you have anything else that you want to ask. Easy to contact by email. We look forward to hearing from you. So have a great day, and thank you for your attendance.